Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on Supergirl Season 2, and this is going to be my review for the finale for Supergirl Season 2, otherwise entitled, Nevertheless, She Persisted. So obviously before going ahead in this video there will be spoilers, and seeing that it is the finale for the season, there's some pretty big spoilers, so be sure to have actually watched the episode before you continue on with the rest of this video. But really, last episode we saw the beginning of the Daxam invasion, or the Daxamite invasion, in an attempt for Rhea and the rest of the Daxamites to create new Daxam, which Supergirl, tried to prevent, but it really continued on into this episode. So right at the end of last episode, we actually saw who else but Superman appear, aka Clark Kent or Kal-El, and knock Supergirl to the ground. So we were all wondering, okay, what's going on here? So we did get that Superman vs Supergirl fight, and we find out that Superman was actually affected by silver kryptonite. Now, we haven't seen silver kryptonite on Supergirl previously. I think we've seen red kryptonite and black kryptonite, maybe? I know red kryptonite, maybe black kryptonite as well. But essentially silver kryptonite induces like hallucinations and paranoia, makes it, like whoever's affected by it paranoid, obviously. And that's what we saw with Superman, and he was seeing Supergirl as General Zod. So at least we get it confirmed that this Superman is versus General Zod. He sees him as his greatest enemy, so it was good that they actually established that, because I think I said it in my trailer breakdown, the only villain that they really established that Superman had fought was Lex Luthor, and I think they'd mentioned Brainiac a couple of times as well. Now, I'm not too familiar with silver kryptonite from the comics, but I know in Smallville it was used. I know Brainiac, I don't know if he made it. I know it's a synthetic kryptonite, like it's not a natural form of it. So it's like synthetic on Smallville, I think. I'm not too sure about in the comics though. But yeah, so that's all I really know about it. I just know that it makes the person trip out and just see things, and that's what we saw happen to Superman in this episode. In regards to the fight between Superman and Supergirl, I thought it was actually really well done. All the surrounding areas with everything on fire and stuff blowing up, I thought it was really cool. And then having them fight in the water, I thought was just a bit different as well. So I thought the actual fight was actually really well done, and it was a great way to kick off the episode, because that was basically the first 5 minutes. I wasn't really surprised seeing Winn fanboying over Superman again, because he started freaking out and all I could say was Mon-El, and I was like, oh wait, no, Superman's in the background, that's why Winn's freaking out. So it's always good to see Winn fanboying over Superman. It's just always funny. Now, we did see in the trailer that Supergirl was going to challenge Rhea to a trial by combat of sorts in order to get rid of the Daxamites. So if she beat them, they would have to go. And I think most of us would have been thinking the same thing when they announced it. I was like, I highly doubt Rhea's going to go along with that. Even if she wins, she'd be like, yeah, I won. You're all screwed. But if she loses, she was never going to leave. Now, for those wondering why they had Supergirl beat Superman, oh, what the hell, how did Superman lose to Supergirl? They did that so she would be the champion of Earth, because the champion of Earth, would have to take on Rhea, so they had to really set that up for that, because Superman is stronger than Supergirl. Supergirl is stronger than Superman in certain areas, but in regards to strength, Superman would beat her, but Supergirl, is faster, I'm pretty sure. And something else, I can't remember what it is, but Supergirl has advantages over Superman, but then Superman obviously has advantages over Supergirl. But I thought it was okay the way they set it up. They weren't going to have Superman take on Rhea, who is obviously the villain for the season, in the finale on a show called Supergirl. It had to be Supergirl. I was actually wondering going into this episode, I was like, are we going to see Cat Grant come into contact with Clark Kent again? Because you remember in the opening 2 episodes, I'm pretty sure it was episode 1, we saw Cat Grant heavily flirting with Clark Kent, and Clark Kent took advantage of that just to give Cara some room to do her thing. But I thought that was pretty funny, just having that all happen. Now, one thing I thought was actually really cool bringing into the episode was involving Lex Luthor, because the Luthors had been a big part of this season with Lillian Luthor and Lena Luthor as well. So they had a device from Lex Luthor which was made to radiate Earth with kryptonite, so Kryptonians, wouldn't be able to live there. They would die eventually if they stayed there. They'd either have to stay there, die, or leave and go somewhere else to live. But they actually reversed it to pollute the atmosphere with lead to get rid of the Daxamites, which I thought was actually a really, really good idea. But the only negative, I guess, to this is that who else is the Daxamite that's on the show? It's Mon-El. Now, he has been exposed to the sunlight from Earth, the yellow sun, so he's a bit more protected from the lead, but only a tiny bit. He will eventually die. But you could see on the show that Mon-El like realized straight away that he would have to leave. He'd either have to sacrifice himself or he would have to leave, just because it'd be incredibly selfish for him to stay and let the Daxamites take control. So he knew the sacrifice that needed to be made. In regards to the actual trial by combat between Supergirl and Rhea, I thought it was okay, it was decent. I don't think it was the best fight. I did prefer the Superman vs Supergirl fight much earlier in the episode. The most interesting thing that happened there was that Rhea had the kryptonite blood. So you think all the other Daxamites on there had the kryptonite blood, which I thought was a twist just to make this fight a bit more even, because I think if it was just Rhea versus Supergirl, just them two without any disadvantages, Supergirl would easily win, but they needed to make it so Supergirl struggled a bit. But I thought that was a creative way to do it, because they'd been exposed to the trash that came down from kryptonite after it was just Krypton, after it was destroyed. It makes sense that they would sort of be like polluted or like poisoned by the kryptonite, but they can use it for their advantage. In regards to their blood being poisoned, it affects actual Kryptonians, might I say. But yeah, I thought it was actually like well done in the actual episode. Now, I don't think it was too much of a surprise that Rhea died come the end of the season. I think we could all see that coming, but it was actually sort of interesting the way that she died after she had like ingested the lead, if that's the correct way to put it, as after the lead was released into the atmosphere. And she died pretty quickly, like in comparison to like how Mon-El was affected. Like, she died really, really quickly. I thought it was interesting though that she wasn't sucked back up into one of the Daxam ships like a lot of the other soldiers were. So I was interested that they didn't do that. Maybe they weren't very happy with Rhea, so maybe they just thought, oh no, we're just gonna ditch her. But we see her turn to like stone and then crumble away. So that was actually pretty cool. In regards to Mon-El leaving, I will talk about that towards the end of the video. But yeah, it was a pretty emotional scene. I think Melissa Benoist, who plays Cara, was really good in that scene. I think she is a very good actress. Like, she's definitely the best actress or actor on the show, and that scene proved it. Like, she was very genuine, but that was a really good ending scene. And one thing I didn't really mention either is that we see Miss Martian return with none other than a bunch of white Martians, and we find out that they weren't really evil. They're people, or they're white Martians, might I say, that are like on the same terms or agreeance as Miss Martian. You know, they're the good ones. They don't agree with what happened with the white Martians and what they did to the green Martians all that time ago. So we'll probably see that evolve in season 3 in a storyline with that. So there's a lot of different setup in this season for things that will happen next season, which I thought was great. Another sort of big moment, which will continue into next season, it wasn't really a massive moment in this one, but it will, evolve next season, is Alex's like less than traditional proposal to Maggie. It's just like, oh, marry me, and that was it. There was no like traditional on the knee and stuff like that. It was just straight up marry me. So they'll continue on that next season. There really wasn't much Alex and Maggie in this episode. I can't remember, was there any really last episode? There really wasn't too much in this episode at least, so I think they really wanted to give a moment for the Alex and Maggie fans to think over in the season break. But it's something that they can go into next season and, do whatever they want in season 3. Now let's talk about the two, I guess it's two big moments, but I guess it involves 3 things to talk about. The first one is Mon-El going into that portal. Now, I will do a separate video on this. I will do 2 separate Supergirl videos, one involving this topic and the thing I'm about to talk about after. Mon-El into the portal. I only have really 2 ideas, but feel free to leave what you think is going on in the comments. The first one is that he went into the Phantom Zone. He could have gone to the Phantom Zone. We don't really know how. It just opened, but that could be one place he's going. And the second place which is the one I would want him to go to, is an area where the Legion of Superheroes are. Just because they've sort of been teasing him going in there. I think even some of the producers have sort of teased Mon-El linking into the Legion of Superheroes. So that could be really cool if that's where he went. And then we meet him like maybe a couple of episodes into next season, or maybe there's a storyline where we cut to where Mon-El appeared and stuff like that, and there's a storyline off Earth with Mon-El with the Legion of Superheroes where he gets some training, gets his own ring, and can finally fly. We might get that with Mon-El, but yeah, let me know what you think happened to Mon-El at the end of the season. And along with Mon-El going into that portal, we also saw Cara fly up. Really can't talk about that. I don't think she's necessarily chasing Mon-El. It could be because, she gave that thing to Mon-El. Maybe she lost track of it. Maybe she freaked out. I'm not too sure about that. I didn't really read that well into it, but let me know what you think's going on there as well with Cara flying up into space. And obviously the last one is the other pod. We go like a flashback to 35 years ago on Krypton. We see an other pod leave Krypton just after Cara and Kal-El did, as I said, 35 years ago. So That's another thing I will do, but that's probably the video I will upload next, like what's going on with that pod, because that is very interesting. I wasn't expecting anything like that. I thought the Mon-El thing going into the portal was going to be like the cliffhanger. Wasn't expecting that other pod leaving Krypton, so that's what my video will be. I don't really want to talk about it too much because I want to go more in depth with that video, which will be out later on, saying there is no trailer to break down. So I will upload that around the same time I would usually upload trailer breakdowns for Supergirl. But overall, I thought this finale was really good. One thing they did really well was incorporate all the characters that we've met this season, essentially. Really the only character that we didn't really get too much of was James Olsen. And honestly thought he was going to die because nothing had happened in this episode. I thought something was going to happen at the end where he might die. It didn't happen. So, yeah, really the only character that died was Rhea. And I think that was very predictable that was going to happen. But yeah, apart from James, they actually incorporated all the characters we'd met this season very, very well. And it was just a very enjoyable finale, seeing Superman back, teaming up with Supergirl, Cat Grant, and even with Miss Martian coming back and working with Jean. I thought that was really good. So I actually really enjoyed this finale. I don't know, it's going to be hard to tell. I will probably talk about it in my Arrow video later on this week, which show had the best and which show had the, not the worst, because that's a really rough word to use, but like not the best finale. But this was a strong start to the DC TV finale week. I know Legends ended a while ago, but for these three shows, this was a very, very strong start. Enjoyed the episode a lot, and hopefully you guys did as well. But thanks for watching, guys. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like on it. As I said, let me know in the comments section down below, what did you think of this episode? What do you think is going on with Mon-El going into that portal? Where do you think he went? And what do you think is going on with that pod that left Krypton just after Kal-El and Cara did? Bit confusing, but I'll do a video on that later, so keep your eyes out for that. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.